Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. And today I'm going to be taking a look at another 2022 release, this time from two of the most celebrated, decorated, respected and iconic musicians of all time. And individually they are both renowned band leaders in their own right and important voices for their respective instruments. And collectively together, they are known as one of the most popular duos in music history. And they were a huge part of the jazz, rock, funk, fusion movement back in the 70s. And these two gentlemen need no introduction whatsoever. I am talking about, of course, the one and only legendary saxophonist, bandleader and composer Michael Brecker, and legendary trumpeter, bandleader and composer Randy Brecker. And this is their double live recording, Michael Brecker Band and Randy Brecker Band, live at Fabrik, Hamburg, 1987. So Michael and Randy Brecker collectively were best known as the Brecker Brothers, and they released a series of albums in 1975 to 1981. And Randy Brecker was already established as a solo artist and already recorded a number of albums under his name, going back to the late 60s. And Michael Brecker would not forge his own solo career till 1986, when he recorded his classic self-titled debut recording for Impulse Records, which was released the following year in 1987, and featured an all-star cast of musicians: guitarist Pat Metheny, bassist Charlie Hayden, pianist Kenny Kirkland, and drummer Jack DeJohnette. And Michael Brecker put together a touring band to tour the self-titled recording, and this featured an all-star cast once again. This featured Michael Brecker on saxophone and EWI, Joey Calderazzo on keyboards, who was pretty much an unknown commodity at this time. He was only 22 years old. Wow. Mike Stern on guitar, Jeff Andrews on bass, and Adam Nussbaum on drums. Great cast of musicians and a real red-hot band. And the Randy Brecker Band featured an equally cast of all-star musicians. So this featured Randy Brecker on trumpet, Bob Berg on tenor saxophone, Dieter Eig on bass, David Kikoski on piano, and Joey Barron on drums. So both Brecker brothers were leading their own all-star ensembles, and with both equally impressive cast of musicians. So let's have a look. So this is a little statement that Randy Brecker made on this album. These concerts were many years ago, and we were both on long Euro tours of one-nighters. So I think we both tried to put on the best show we could to outdo the other, in a good way. Amazing to me how at that point in time we were on different paths. I've had that band with Berg, Kikoski, Eig and Joey Barron for a while. Acoustic, more straight ahead as we say, while Mike was on uncharted territory with a new band. This might have been their first Euro tour, so the competition was on at one of our favourite places to play, Fabrik in Hamburg. So let the games begin. This was from Randy Brecker back on May 27th, 2022. So, as I mentioned already, both Brecker brothers were playing together in a double bill show. So Michael Brecker, as I mentioned, had his own band, and Randy Brecker had his own band. So let's have a look. So there's all the tracks and the compositions. So on disc 1 it features mostly compositions from Michael Brecker's self-titled album and a Mike Stern original from Mike Stern's solo album Upside Downside. So the tracks we got here is Nothing Personal by Don Grolnick, Choices by Mike Stern, the title track from Mike Stern's solo album Upside Downside, My One and Only Love by Guy B. Wood, which was a bonus track on Michael Brecker's self-titled recording, and Original Rays by Michael Brecker, Don Grolnick and Mike Stern, which was also from the self-titled recording. And although there's only 5 songs, they're really, really long. So this really gives an opportunity for Michael Brecker's band to really stretch things out and really get a chance to strut their stuff. And for me, this is an impressive live performance. The sound quality for all those years ago is very impressive, top-notch quality playing from all 5 musicians. I would say the standout musician, all due respect to Michael Brecker, is Mike Stern. His guitar playing is just ferocious, jaw-dropping, and just fiery. Sometimes I think to myself that maybe we should get a fire extinguisher for Mike Stern because he's just on fire. And I think, you know, the thing about this band is, unlike the band that recorded for Michael Brecker's self-titled debut recording, they were a bit more on the laid-back side. So it was kind of like a semi-acoustic, stripped-down affair. Although there was keyboards and there was some EWI, it was mostly semi-acoustic. Pretty much a continuation of Pat Metheny's legendary double 8081 recording for ECM. But here, with Michael Brecker's live band, it's just like a rock band. I mean, yes, they play with a jazz approach, but it's just like a rock band. It's just unbelievable. And a lot of that is due to Mike Stern. When he goes, he really goes. Jeff Andrews sounds great as always. Adam Nussbaum, one of the true legends of the drum kit. And Joey Calderazzo, even though he was not an established musician like the other 4 gentlemen, he really shines on here. Lots of great piano and keyboard playing, and he was pretty much like the young wild card of the band. And as I mentioned, he was only 22. Oh, I remember seeing films of this concert, and I remember Joey Calderazzo. He just looked like a little kid compared to these 4 heavyweights. Trust me when I tell you, they are heavyweights. Doesn't get any heavier than these guys, but he really matches up well with them. So the standout tracks for me on disc 1, I would say, is Upside Downside. Never get tired of hearing that. Nothing Personal, great guitar playing from Stern and great sax playing from Michael Brecker. And Original Rays, which is like 19 minutes long. You know, it's just Michael Brecker on the EWI. And, you know, the thing with Brecker is, when he plays the EWI, at times it does sound like a keyboard, and at other times it sounds like an electric guitar, and pretty much brought that into Steps Ahead, and he kind of just carries on from where he left off from Steps Ahead. So great playing on the EWI, and what more can you say, really? This is 5 guys at the top of their game. Michael Brecker has never sounded better than he does here, and as I said, him and Stern, they just make a monster front line. So that's disc 1. Now, over on disc 2, which is the Randy Brecker Band, this featured 3 Randy Brecker originals, 1 Mike Stern original, and 1 Bob Berg original, and 1 standard. Now, unlike the Michael Brecker Band, which was much more in the rock realm and more electricity to their playing, the Randy Brecker Band was a much more acoustic and laid-back kind of group. So, as I mentioned, you've got Randy Brecker on trumpet, Bob Berg on tenor saxophone, Dieter Eig on bass, David Kokoski on piano, and Joey Barron on drums. Great cast of musicians here, and as I said, a much more laid-back affair than the Michael Brecker disc. So we've got here No Scratch by Randy Brecker, Search by Mike Stern. There's a Mingus Among Us, catchy title, by Randy Brecker. And then we got a standard by Casper Washington on Green Dolphin Street. Forever Young by Randy Brecker and the Bob Berg original Snakes. So just like the Michael Brecker Band disc, the Randy Brecker Band disc here, all very long tracks. So standout tracks for me are No Scratch, which is like 12 minutes long. There's a Mingus Among Us, another great track that's also 12 minutes long. And Snakes, which is another great track, which is written and composed by Bob Berg. That's like 14 minutes long. Great collection of songs. As I said, a little bit surprising for me how good this disc was. I mean, Randy Brecker, great trumpet player, great musician, but I never really clicked with Randy Brecker's music, unlike Michael Brecker's, but here is surprisingly very good. It's very enjoyable. Great playing from all five musicians here. So it's a really, really enjoyable live performance. So as we go along here, and we've got the sleeve notes here. So it's pretty much like the sleeve notes, all the same, but they're all in German. So you've got the first pages here is all in German, and then you've got the others in English. So a little bit of the history of Michael and Randy growing up as young boys, as young musicians, and both of them pretty much started their careers in like the late 60s. And of course, as we all know, they would all both go on to become one of the legendary duos in music history as the Brecker Brothers. And they were also a big part of the band that played at 7th Avenue, which would go on to become initially Steps, and then later on would become Steps Ahead, with a revolving cast of some of the best musicians of the world, ranging from Eddie Gomez, Steve Gadd, Don Brolnick, to name a few. And of course, the brainchild of the entire setup was, of course, vibraphonist Mike Maneri and Michael Brecker, the two who would co-lead Steps Ahead for a number of years through different lineups. So we've got some more here. There's sleeve notes. And there's also a little bit about the concerts from both discs here. And it also talks about, however, the good old days only lasted for 2 decades, as January 2007, Michael Brecker succumbed to leukemia and passed away, and he wasn't even 58 yet. Such a loss, really. And, imagine what Michael Brecker could have done, if he had lived. What would he have achieved? But I would say Michael Brecker, he did more than any other sax player could ever do in their amazing career, made some incredible music, and this performance here for me is a real true showcase of how great of a sax player Michael Brecker really is and was. And he's still dearly missed to this day. I miss him a lot. He's an unbelievable sax player. So a little bit more here about Mingus Silver Monk and all the ancestors, and a little bit here about Randy Brecker as well, and some more sleeve notes here as well. So the standout disc for me of this double live recording, I'm going with the Michael Brecker Band, because how can you compete against Michael Brecker? He's such a monster sax player. Randy Brecker disc, it's great as well. All great players, great performance, but the Michael Brecker Band disc, which is the first one, is just fantastic. Everybody sounds fantastic. Mike Stern's guitar playing is on full display. Jeff Andrews and Adam Nussbaum are just really cooking up a storm as a tight rhythm section. Joe Calderazzo, great on the piano and keyboards, and Michael Brecker, he's just in full beast mode on saxophone and EWI. The EWI is featured a lot more heavy on this performance than the saxophone. Would have liked to have heard a little bit more of the sax, but at the same time, Michael Brecker is such a talented musician that you kind of just look the other way, really, because you're just gravitated and drawn in by his incredible playing. So I can forgive it. It's Michael Brecker. What can I say? But the Randy Brecker disc, very underrated, still worth checking out. But if I was to recommend which disc of the two, I'm definitely going with disc 1. Maybe I'm just a bit biased because I love Michael Brecker, but hey, what can I say? He's the man. And it's a great performance, and hopefully we'll see some more Brecker stuff get released in the near future. But this is a must-have for all fans of Michael Brecker, and even Randy Brecker as well. If you're a fan of the Brecker Brothers, or you're a fan of both of these guys individually, highly recommend you check this out. So there you have it. Michael Brecker Band and Randy Brecker Band live at Fabrik, Hamburg, 1987. Unbelievable double live recording. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What's your favourite disc on Live in Fabrik Hamburg 1987? Is it the Michael Brecker Band, or is it disc 2, the Randy Brecker Band? And what's your favourite tracks from disc 1? Is it Nothing Personal, Choices, Upside Downside, My One and Only Love, or Original Rays? Or on disc 2, is your favourite tracks No Scratch, Search, There's a Mingus Among Us, On Green Dolphin Street, Forever Young, or Snakes? There's no right or wrong answer. We all have, of course, our favourites. You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.